Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. Tower Talk Business Radio brings you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation, including expert consultants and small business owners who have found success, but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their first-hand experience. And now, let's get down to business with Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation.
Hello, and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Nephew Business Banking, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, CEO, keeper of the brand marketing and digital agency, and we're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship.
Ray and I bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. Plus, we interview the top business leaders in the industry.
Yes, we do. We have a lot of good people here, and, today is no exception. Very excited about this, although there are a lot of big words in his job, so I'm afraid I'm going to screw things up on the radio here. So I'll have to be very careful with that.
That's okay, because I think he has an insight on what's going on in your mind and your body.
Oh, yeah.
He does.
I'm actually very excited from a personal standpoint as well as a professional standpoint, just because a lot of the work that goes into, medical work and radiology, I experienced that through treatments a couple of years ago. And so I have a lot of respect for the people who have developed the technology.
Oh, that's good.
It's cool stuff.
It is. But, according to Albert Einstein, another smarty, your imagination is your preview to life's coming attractions.
Oh, I like that. Preview to life's coming attractions.
And radiology is the preview on what's going on in your mind, body, and soul.
I like that. It works for movies. It works for Albert Einstein. It works for the radiology. All right. Helping provide us with business empowerment today is our guest. He is Robert Day. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Zwanger-Pesiri Radiology. And Bob has been a radiologic. See, I told you I was going to have a problem with it. Radiologic Technologist since 1979. He's worked at the State University at Stony Brook from 1981 to 1997 as the Associate Director of CT, MRI, and Interventional Radiology. From 1997 to 1999, he worked for Advanced Cardiovascular Imaging and was an instructor for General Electric Cardiovascular MRI Master Series. He also worked for General Electric as an Advanced MRI Application Specialist. Bob has been with Zwanger-Pesiri Radiology for the past 15 years as a staff MRI Technologist, moving on to their Chief Technical Officer, and for the past 8 years as the Chief Operating Officer. Bob, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
We're so excited to have you here.
Very excited. And, your experience, it's like I had trouble pronouncing it, much less living it. I can only imagine.
Sounds harder than it is.
Tell us how you got started.
So I really, my whole adult life has been, my professional career has been in radiology. So I started as a, classically trained, licensed X-ray technologist. I actually predated CAT scan. So when I was in X-ray school, CT didn't even exist.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've always been somebody that's fascinated with what I think is the next imaging tool that will help advance the profession. So it was interesting. Back in the day when CT was first available, it was very, very expensive to purchase. So what hospitals would do is they would lease time with a CAT scanner that would be in a truck. And it was called mobile CT because they couldn't actually afford to put it in the hospital. So,
so
my first job at an X-ray school, because I wanted to learn and become involved in CT, was they said, "Can you drive a truck?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I could drive a truck." And they had a CT scan in the back of a truck. And my first job out of X-ray school was driving a truck with the CAT scan in the back, and I would pull up to a hospital, plug it in, and perform CAT scans.
Wow!
Oh, wow!
Yeah, so that's how I got into it, and then I kind of progressed along. I stumbled onto Stony Brook. Started a family out east. The university is a wonderful, wonderful institution. And I started there. They did have obviously a fixed CT scanner, serviced the ER and the inpatients, and did a little bit of outpatient work. And then along came MRI, which first time I saw an MRI, I said, now there's the future of radiology. And sure enough, it was. And eventually the university purchased an MRI, became involved, was a very early adapter, as we like to say, learned the technology, and have just always tried to be a forward thinker as far as what's on the horizon, what's going to be new in imaging, what tool, what camera are we going to have to better look inside your body and diagnose or tell you what's wrong. I mean, radiology may sound complicated, but it's really simple. We take a picture, and we tell you if there's something wrong with you. That's really all radiology is. As time has gone on, it's become more and more sophisticated and advanced in the type of imaging tools, and even within the tools, you can almost think of, I always think of radiology, I kind of relate it to a camera. So you can have a really good, SLR Canon camera, and then we have all different types of lenses that we can put on it to image different parts of your body. I think one of the wonderful things that Dr. Mendelsohn has done over the years, and what attracted me to Zwanger-Pesiri and has always kept me engaged, is Dr. Mendelsohn is very, very committed to staying what we like to call cutting edge, or even in some cases bleeding edge, of technology. We are as sophisticated as some of the big universities in the procedures that we provide for our patients. If there's something that's available that can better help the patients, Dr. Mendelsohn is always very, very proactive to get us involved. We vet it. We see if we think it has a purpose, and then where he supports us is he goes out and purchases it. One of the challenges is usually the newer technology is expensive.
Okay.
All right. So that's could be cost prohibitive, but Dr. Mendelsohn, and I think it's one of the strengths and one of the kind of cornerstones of Zwanger-Pesiri, is Dr. Mendelsohn's always very committed to being able to provide to the community, Long Island, and now the boroughs, whatever the latest, greatest, and most advanced, sophisticated imaging techniques that are available to our patients. And we've continued to do that, and I think it's kind of the cornerstone of what's made us successful. I think if you ask patients on Long Island, you mentioned the word Zwanger-Pesiri, I think probably the first thing that would come to their mind would be one of two things. I like to think one of the first things they would say is, boy, they're really nice over there, because that's also a very important thing that we do.
Yes.
But 1A to that is that I think Zwanger-Pesiri's brand name is kind of associated with high-end technology. Radiology is very, very, very technology-driven, and I think one of the key things that we do is that we provide the latest and the greatest that's available to the patients.
Yeah, and I mean, that stuff is expensive because, you have to pay for the R&D and all that beforehand.
Yeah.
But, it's so important because I know you say it's simple, but I don't think you can overestimate the importance of it, because what you're doing is you're saving lives, because you're stopping their having the need for an invasive procedure to find out what's going on.
That's a great point. And as the imaging is advanced, if I can even think back to my days when I first started in radiology, there were some very invasive things that we would have to do to image you. As an example, to look at your spine, if you were having leg pain and we were worried that you may have a slip disc,
right,
that would be the layman's term, we would have to put a needle in your back, put some contrast in, and take X-rays. That's all performed now in a 10-minute, 8-minute MRI scan that you lay on the table and listen to two songs and you're done. So
I know what my preference would be. You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, and our guest today is Robert Day, Chief Operating Officer of Zwanger-Pesiri Radiology.
Now, Bob, you mentioned basically going from like a SD for a camera to like HD right now, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I just remember having, MRIs, and it took hours.
Yes.
But now you're saying like 8 to 10 minutes, 2 songs.
Some of them are even faster than that. In fact, I just returned from a conference where there's going to be a next generation of MRIs coming out, where we're going to be approaching have you had a CAT scan? CT scans are literally performed in less than a minute, and it looks like down the road MRI is going to be approaching that, where they're constantly developing new techniques that allow us to go faster, and the importance there is we're going to maintain the quality, but we're going to make it a much easier experience for the patient. I mean, to lay on those tables for hours was very, very difficult, especially when you're in pain. So that's the next wave, I think, of imaging, is that they're figuring out how to not only improve the quality of the image, but the what I would describe as the experience that you have, that we're going to make it a lot easier.
You're giving me flashbacks here. I feel like the flashbacks coming. I'm like, are the tears going to start coming out of my eyes right now?
We get a bad rap. I always would kid with people. It's not a fun job when everybody hates what you're doing to them. But,
they're like, are you okay?
Yes.
But no, it's definitely much needed so that you can know what's going on, so that the doctors can help you.
Yes.
But can you tell us about, the new exam called heart flow?
Sure. So heart flow is something that we use in conjunction with a CT scanner, CAT scan. We are now, and it's been around for a while, going on 10 years, we are able to actually image and look at the blood vessels in your heart, your coronary arteries. Those are the blood vessels that take the blood with oxygen and feed the heart muscle. So what is a heart attack? A heart attack is when we deprive the heart muscle of oxygen. And that typically happens from the vessel becoming narrow. What heart flow does is we perform what we consider now a routine CAT scan of the coronary arteries, which is a very quick procedure, less than 5 minutes. It's a couple of quick breath holds. We can actually look at an image and get an anatomical, meaning a picture of the coronary arteries, kind of a roadmap of the roads of the blood vessels leading to the heart muscle. What heart flow does is it takes it on to another level. There's a procedure when you have a coronary catheterization, which is when you go into the hospital and they have to actually puncture your groin and put a catheter into the coronary arteries, put a little contrast in, and they can actually, under X-ray, look at the blood vessels. They also have the ability to do something called fractional flow reserve. So what does that mean? If you could picture a stream with a dam in it, there's a certain amount of water at the top of the dam, before the dam, and then the dam will restrict the amount of water that now flows the rest of the way down the stream. In simple terms, that's what heart flow does. We are actually able, from the data that we collect in that 5-minute study, use a logarithm or a post-processing computer to look at how much blood comes into the coronary artery and how much flows through it. So if you have something in there obstructing or blocking or damming, closing up, restricting the amount of flow that can go through the blood vessel, that can eventually become damaging to your heart. So the beauty of heart flow is that it's added on to what we're already doing, but gives us so much more information. Because really, what we're trying to tell the cardiologist is, are you at risk because the blood is being restricted to the heart muscle for a heart attack? The reason I think this study is so important is because there's so much emphasis put on cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, and these are very, very important things. I think what I find interesting about what I consider cardiac disease is I don't think there's anybody I've ever asked the question, do you have a family member that has either had a heart attack, a stroke, high blood pressure, or something that would indicate coronary disease? Everybody says yes.
Right.
The thing about coronary artery disease, the simplest way to think of it is plumbing. That's what it is. It's pipes that have water flow through it. It's vessels that have blood flow through it. The beauty of this study and the beauty of coronary artery disease is that it's all treatable and it's all fixable. And it's actually unfortunate in today's day and age that anybody ever dies from a heart attack because we have a way to image it. And the really nice thing is it's all treatable. Unfortunately, many times there are certain diseases that you get that there's limited resources to fix the problem.
Right.
When you have a heart problem, it's nothing is different than either putting in a stent in to open up the blood vessel, sometimes a bypass to go around the blockage. But the nice thing, whenever somebody tells me they have, vascular disease, it's treatable and it's fixable.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Robert Day, COO of Zwanger-Pesiri. My name is Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with Ray Schwetz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Dot Pharmacy is a website verification program that helps you identify safe and trustworthy online pharmacies. Just look for pharmacy to the right of the dot in website addresses. A public service message from the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy.
And welcome back to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with Ray Schwetz, and our guest today is Robert Day, COO of Zwanger-Pesiri Radiology.
Now, Bob, you gave us a lot to think about with some of your latest comments, and I'm just thinking from the patient point of view, what kind of things do we look for in ourselves where we should consult someone?
I know, to go running into Zwanger, right?
Okay, well, I'm going to my doctor. My doctor says this, but, where do I go? And so I'm wondering from your perspective, what is it that the patient should really look for and do and follow through on?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think patients are becoming more educated over time. One of the problems with medical care, I think, in general, is the advances happen so rapidly that, us being the experts in radiology, we're very aware of what the latest and the greatest is. Sometimes the referring physicians, the cardiologist or your internist, your general practitioner, it's hard for them to stay abreast of everything that's available to their patients. So I think the first thing I try to impress upon people is become educated yourself and be aware of what is available to you. And just to go back to the cardiac for a second, is something as simple as having blood work, high cholesterol. Which is something that is a pretty routine screen that most people have. So high cholesterol means that, there's a chance that your arteries are starting to hold on to that cholesterol, and over time they could develop a problem. Right. So there's another study that we perform that's very, very simple. It's called a calcium score, which again is performed with the CAT scan. It's completely non-invasive. It's literally a 1-minute test. But what it does is it will take a look at your arteries again, those roads that are carrying the blood, and we can see if you have any calcium. Now, why is that important? If you have high cholesterol, and this is a progression of how the disease happens, you will start to develop or deposit little fatty blocks that over time, if they stay there long enough, become hard. If you can think of it as like wet cement becoming dried cement, becoming calcified. So we can lay you on the CT scanner, hook you up to some EKG leads with a heart monitor. I will literally have you hold your breath for 10 seconds, and I can look at and estimate the amount of calcium that you have in your body. Now, why is that important? Once you have calcium, it means you did start to develop some bad things in your coronary arteries. So with a simple, literally 1-minute test, we can start to maybe have some lifestyle changes. And I can tell you it's a very powerful tool when you look at a picture of your heart, and I unfortunately show you these white dots that are not supposed to be there. Now, here's the good thing. We can stop it from regressing. And your body also has a wonderful way of remodeling or adapting to that blockage. So if we can get you on some healthier regimens, exercise, eating healthier, and maybe even some, what the cardiologists prescribe, statins, which are drugs that will prevent the accumulation of these bad fatty deposits. I think that's a good example of people being aware of a tool, a simple tool that's available, that can help you kind of manage your own health. It takes time in medicine for new technology to be adapted. Look, it's not necessarily a bad thing. We don't want every week something new coming out and people being exposed to things they really shouldn't be. One of the challenges that we do have in radiology, and as I had mentioned before, some of these new advances tend to be a little bit expensive. But there's also another challenge. The way we make money, our business, is we purchase equipment, I perform a test, and you have health insurance. Right? And that's how you pay for it. One of the challenges we have is the health insurance companies sometimes also aren't current. Right. And they will not allow you to have certain studies and then pay us for you to come and have it.
Right.
One of the things I think that Dr. Mendelsohn has been so progressive with, whenever we look at new technology, many radiology businesses, the first question they'll ask is, can I make money doing that? Which is, I would never judge anybody for saying that, because to stay in business, you can't sell hamburgers for free. Eventually, you'll go out of business. But I think one of the successes of Zwanger-Pesiri, and certainly Dr. Mendelsohn, the way he's built the business, is we look at something through a slightly different lens. We look at new technology, and we put the business part of it on the side at the beginning. And we look at everything through a lens of, God bless you. We look at everything through a lens of, will that technology help the patient? If we feel it will, we are willing to purchase the technology even before we're reimbursed or paid for it. What we believe, and I think we've been very successful with this, if we pick out the right technology and we become kind of the leaders in the field in performing it, eventually the good technology will be reimbursed. We will be able to make money. But at that point, we've done two, I think, really nice things. One, we've provided the service to our patients. Right. And two, we've kind of become the leaders in the field because we've been doing it sometimes for years without being reimbursed, but we're very comfortable with it. So when it does become reimbursed, we're kind of set up and ready to really kind of make a go of it. And that at that point, then it does become a very good business decision. But it's an odd way to run a radiology practice, but it's worked well.
So now you're reducing anxiety,
yes,
leading in technology, and also giving back to the community.
Yes.
You have Give Back Sunday,
yes,
which is a fantastic program. Can you share a little bit about that?
So I'll never forget the day Dr. Mendelsohn was in our gym, and he was watching the news. And this is going back, I lose track of time, 8-9 years ago when the economy started to go in a very bad way. And there were a lot of people on Long Island that became unemployed overnight. And part of unemployment is no health care. So there was a large part of our population, patients that had been coming to us for years, that all of a sudden woke up one day without health care. And Dr. Mendelsohn had a wonderful, wonderful idea. He said, I'm sitting on top of all of this equipment. I have the ability to use it. And what he did is he gathered us all together, and what we decided to do was on Sundays, open the practice, because we weren't open on Sundays back then. We all volunteered. The technologists, the nurses, the front desk people, the radiologists. And we invited people who did not have health care to come in and have imaging at no cost. I always kid with Dr. Mendelsohn. He called it Give Back Sunday, but it became Sundays. So we were volunteering and then one day Dr. Mendelsohn said, why should we limit this to Sunday? So now, as we sit here today, if you are without health care insurance, without the ability to pay for health care radiology, we provide that at no cost to patients. And it's been a wonderful thing. I can tell you the countless times that we've unfortunately found things that if we hadn't been there to help people early on, it probably would have had a very different outcome. So that was Dr. Mendelsohn's brainstorm. It's his baby, and I can't imagine the number of people that we've helped through the years doing that.
That's amazing. You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, and our guest today is Robert Day, Chief Operating Officer of Zwanger-Pesiri Radiology. Now, we see locations opening up all over. Obviously, you're making things very easy for people to come to you. One of the things that you mentioned that I want to be sure of is, and very helpful in terms of what patients should look for. Is there any resources that you could recommend for patients to do some of their own education?
Look, I think the internet has become the holy grail for everybody. WebMD, sure. There are things talk to your referring physician, talk to your general practitioner, and get their input and see if as an example the calcium score. Is it something they're aware of? Do they agree with it? Do they think it's something that would be helpful? So it's a simple answer, but I think I wouldn't tell you to go to a library and start reading books on cardiology. I would, start to, go to the internet. WebMD is usually a pretty good source, kind of explain things, what the benefits are. So, yeah, it's like anything else. It's interesting. You'll be very picky where you get your hair cut and colored. and just show up at any doctor and not really do your research. So I always find it fascinating, the amount of time and energy and even money people are willing to spend on other parts of their life. And I guess what I tell people is what's more important than your and your family's health care. Radiology is a tiny little piece of it. But I like to think that what we provide, on Long Island and now moving into the boroughs, is we take very seriously that we want to, be a couple of things. One, we want to be geographically available to people. We want to be very, very accessible, and the way we try to do that is we're open 7 days a week. We try to scan, early in the morning for those people that want to maybe get a procedure done without losing a day's pay. We are available into the evenings for the same thing. Maybe you could come by on the way after work and not have to take a day off. We have a lot of hours available on Saturday, and for certain parts of the community, Sunday is better than Saturday. So I think availability is kind of a cornerstone of what we do. So geographically available, and I think making it accessible time-wise is important too.
Well, we talked a lot about Zwanger. We talked a lot about what goes on with people. What about yourself? What's your proudest accomplishment?
Oh, boy. Radiology-wise?
Well, I guess it could be anything.
6 kids.
That's an accomplishment.
That's an accomplishment.
You're busy.
Yeah, busy.
Absolutely.
I think in radiology, I think, I think what I enjoy the most is Dr. Mendelsohn at Zwanger-Pesiri has given all of us an opportunity to be involved in the latest technology. I personally tend to be somebody that wants to be doing things that are progressive. I love the word change. I love the word progression. I like to not only from a operational point of view try to get better, but from an imaging point of view, I want to continually see if there's newer and more improved things that we can offer to our patients. It becomes harder and harder as we move along in healthcare with some of the pressures that we're trying to drive out healthcare costs or lower healthcare costs. It's become challenging lately to stay progressive, but Dr. Mendelsohn is still committed to it. We are still committed to it. We have to be very, very careful now when we make decisions. I like to tell people in the past we could look at something and be wrong and we could absorb it. I think probably the biggest difference now is we're still very progressive, but we tend to vet things a little bit more and really try to make sure. I think another example of something that Dr. Mendelsohn looked at very early on that we thought would be helpful to our patients is mammography. And there was a new imaging tool going back, I guess, about 6 or 7 years now, where something came out called the 3D tomography for mammograms. And just to make it very simple, not to get too technical, is we took a mammogram that was a 2-dimensional image that we kind of looked through the whole glass of water. And this new technology gave us the ability to kind of slice up or look at parts of the water at a time. It gave us clarity to things that we couldn't see before. Dr. Mendelsohn saw this technology, knew that it would eventually become the way to image a breast. We're very early adapters, and now it's become mainstream. We're very proud to say that we have 3D mammography in every one of our locations.
And where can we find you in those locations? How can we contact Zwanger?
Well, you can certainly go to our website. I always try to impress upon people is don't think of Zwanger-Pesiri as 29 or 30 individual locations. Think of it as one enterprise that no matter where you call, no matter who you call, it's one team of people treating you, whether you walk into an office in Cobble Hill in Brooklyn or Shirley out in Suffolk County. You're going to be exposed to the same technology. You're going to hopefully be treated the same way. And we have we try to treat all our patients the same everywhere. One consistent enterprise.
Thank you very much, Bob. We'd like to thank you for being with us today. We'd like to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. The creative director of Tower Talk Business Radio is Rudy Breedy. This is an NCC Foundation Business Leaders Council production. Visit ncc.edu/WHPC for more information. Available on iHeartRadio as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcast, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. We'll talk with you next week.